can't see me, you Stevie. Wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
What's up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. Today's video, I'm going to be talking about Punisher number 9 by Jason Aaron, Jesus Size, and Paul Azaceta. This issue of Punisher is wild, and honestly I kind of feel like we've seen this coming for quite some time now, because if you're not familiar, Punisher has become the leader of the Hand as of last year, and one of the 2 collision courses that he has been on since he became the leader of the Hand, one of those is with Daredevil and the other is with the God of War himself, Ares. And one of the main beefs that Ares has had with Punisher, and it's kind of a commentary on fan reaction to the announcement of this story arc, is that he doesn't like this new version of the Punisher. He wants Punisher to go back to being the old Punisher that he has always been since time immemorial, and he is going to make him become the old Punisher again, even if it means killing him. But Punisher doesn't want to be the old Punisher anymore. He wants to stay this course because staying on this course keeps him with his family. Now, granted, he can never have his children back, but he can have his wife, Maria, back. And while that is currently in some really weird stages, we learn a lot more about the history behind the murder of Frank Castle's family, because at one point it's hinted at that the Hand actually orchestrated the death of his family, and it may even very well be true. There kind of seems to be a little bit of unreliable narration going on here. The fact that the Archpriestess was told by her fellow Hand ninjas the only way they're going to be able to turn Castle into the killer that she believes he will ultimately become is to kill his family, and she's against that, not because she's against the murder of them, but because she feels like that is forcing the issue and not letting it happen naturally. And while ultimately it seems as though they didn't actually do anything, we know that the Hand were present when Frank Castle's family was murdered. They knew everything there was to know about what was going on with Frank Castle. They were keeping such good tabs on the Punisher back then, as early as that time frame, that they knew Frank and Maria were clapping each other's cheeks pretty regularly. Now, once again, it's hinted at that they didn't do it, but it could also be taken as to mean that maybe the ninjas disobeyed the Archpriestess's commands anyway. But what we know is that the Hand could have honestly made it look like the Maja were the ones who did it, or maybe even contracted the Maja to do it. Regardless of whatever the case is, Frank is the king of killers now. He became the one-man war on crime who has now become the leader of an army against crime. At least the ones they don't commit. And in this issue, Punisher takes down the God of War himself, Ares. Now, you're probably asking yourself, how on earth is regular man Frank Castle taking down Ares? Well, I've done plenty of videos talking about this. If you want to know more about any of that, check out this playlist up here and it'll get you caught up on everything. But just know that right now, Punisher has pretty much all of the gifts of the Beast for the most part. According to the Archpriestess in the previous issue, Frank Castle has manifested all but one of the 5 gifts of the Beast. Currently, he possesses the eyes of the Beast that allow him to see into the hearts of those who have committed murder and know exactly all the murders and killings they've ever done, and even to a degree what their intentions are. He also has the fire of the Beast that allows him to envelop himself in the fire of the Beast. We see it manifest in his eyes and surrounding his body. He's even been able to project this fire onto his enemies and even channel it through his weapons. He also has the marrow of the Beast, which allows him superhuman strength, and he also has the healing blood, which is his healing factor. While this isn't necessarily considered a gift of the Beast, we also know that Frank can fly now. We do know that the dagger that Ares had shattered has been reforged into bullets, and we know that the dagger of the fist was able to harm Ares, so the fact that Frank now has bullets that can harm Ares, he's ready to take the fight to him, and he does it. While it's not the easiest thing that Frank has ever done, this isn't an easy clap situation, we see Frank take on all levels of punishment trying to take this guy down, and eventually he does. Using the quotey fingers bullets of the fist, he kills Ares, blowing off his hand, shooting him multiple times in the chest, and eventually shooting him in the head, killing him. And in a roundabout way, Ares is somewhat happy about this because now Punisher has become the new God of War. The old God of War is dead. Long live the new God of War. This is a staple that we have seen before, not just in Marvel Comics. We've seen this in the video game series God of War. Kratos defeats Ares. He becomes the new God of War. Punisher does pretty much the exact same thing. Even with the apostles of Ares bowing down before him in reverence to his christening as the new God of War, and Frank burns all of them to cinders. And this is kind of wild because not only is Frank Castle the leader of the Fist, he's the Fist of the Beast. He has superpowers now. He is more powerful today than he has ever been in the history of his time in Marvel Comics. And now he is the God of War, making him presumably even more powerful. And not only does he have that behind him, but now he has the validation of his wife, Maria. Originally, Maria seemed like she was terrified of Frank, but over the course of the last few issues, Maria's been getting a lot more panel time since she was resurrected by the Hand in Punisher #1. She has grown used to the stories that she has heard, even going back and talking about how before she was originally killed, how she would sneak out of the house and go to bars where she would listen to the veterans talk about their war stories, and how all roads eventually led to them talking about Frank Castle. Men who served with Castle during his time in the Marines. She learns all these stories and realizes that Frank is not the guy who she sees at home, even kind of musing that originally she thought that, the war and all the killing and other things he had to do to survive while he was in the Marines, she felt like that was his mistress and that she and the kids, that was his family at home. But she has come to accept the fact that she's the mistress, that the killing, the war, that is his true love, that is his true wife. And she's grown to accept it even now, and she is thrown in her lot with the Hand as well, or rather seemingly thrown in her lot with Punisher. And this is what I think is going to lead to the death of the Archpriestess, because the Archpriestess was not down for this. She's been trying to keep Maria Castle under lock and key, keep her out of the way, using her as a way just to keep Frank Castle close. But the thing is, and I think what the Archpriestess is underestimated, is the power and sway that Maria has over Frank, and Maria now knows it. She realized all the stories and tales she had heard of her husband, they just made her want him and love him more than she ever realized that she did before. And while she knows and recognizes that a lot of the things that kind of led to the development of their relationship were probably not exactly true, the fact that the letters that she used to get from him actually came from his best friend who had set them up, all that she pretty much suspected. And all the other things that Frank tried to keep from her, she suspected always, but now she knows them to be true and she accepts them. In the previous issue, when the Archpriestess kind of blew some mystic smoke into her face and knocked her out, Maria had a lot of time to think, and these are all the thoughts that came out of that. And now that Maria is 100% bought into what Frank is doing, Frank no longer has to hide who he is as the Punisher from Maria. Now, this is what's going to make Frank more dangerous than ever, because he no longer has to live a dual life. He can be who he truly is. Now, I do think this will backfire to some degree, because I feel like the Maria that he loved is now disappearing. I think that is going to eventually fade away. It's going to be kind of that reverse effect where we thought that Maria was going to be the one like, oh, I found out who he really is, I don't want to be with this guy anymore. But no, it was the reverse. She found out who the Punisher really was, and she dived in head first. I think Frank is going to do the opposite here. I think as time goes on, he's going to realize this isn't the woman that he actually loves. But the work is not done, and Frank knows it, because the superhero community has largely figured out what the hell is going on with Frank. Daredevil has been making the rounds and telling everyone what has been happening. Daredevil has been on a snitch spree with the Punisher. Right now, a lot of major players in the Marvel Comics universe know that Frank is leading the Hand, that he has become an entire monster, and Daredevil has warned Wolverine about this. And Wolverine realizes, yes, Punisher has to be taken down. And not only does Wolverine know, but so too does Black Widow. Black Widow has been keeping tabs on Frank Castle this entire time, and she has warned Captain America Steve Rogers. And not only does Steve Rogers know, but so too does Moon Knight. Moon Knight has now been drawn into this, and now all of these heroes, alongside Doctor Strange, are now forced to have to figure out how they're going to solve the Frank Castle problem. A problem that they even say in this issue is something that they always knew they were going to have to tackle at some point. And right now, Frank is more powerful than ever. It's going to take more than Daredevil to take down the Punisher. Even with Daredevil having his new army, the Fist, and having his powers heightened to levels that he's never had before, Daredevil is still no match for Frank Castle as he is right now. So yeah, he's gonna need a lot more than the Fist, and I don't know how this is gonna translate to Daredevil side of things, because right now Daredevil and Punisher are on a collision course that is currently going to culminate in this next upcoming issue, I believe, of Daredevil number 8, because we already have seen that Punisher is called Daredevil out in Daredevil number 7. So we know that whatever is coming, it's coming very soon, and I don't think Daredevil is going to be able to take this guy on, because as we have seen in the previous issue of Daredevil number 7, that Elektra has finally told Matt the truth about the prophecy of the first encounter between Daredevil and Punisher, and that prophecy is playing out, and we know that one of the two of them is going to die. It's either going to be Elektra or it's going to be Matt. And while I think it's not really anything to be too terribly concerned about, I do feel like there's going to be some kind of way this is all going to be circumvented. I do have to wonder whether or not the events that occur in Daredevil number 8, if any of this is happening right now in Punisher number 9, is going to have any bearing on it, if that is going to be the moment where we actually see the grapevine of superheroes that Daredevil has been warning about the Punisher, if any of that is going to come into play there. Once again, I have really enjoyed the series. I know people are not prone to like change, and I know in the past, whenever Punisher status quo was changed, people hated it, like back in the late 90s when he was an Angel, and even more recently, like around the mid-2010s when he was Frankencastle, and even in Secret Empire where he was a whole cape hunter for the Secret Empire of Hydra. And it's one of those deals, honestly, I don't care. I mean, people always complain about how their characters don't change, and whenever they do, people hate it. So they always want them to go back to the way they used to be. And it just goes to show that you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And honestly, I like this version of the Punisher because you can tell that while he's doing the things he's always done, he's conflicted in the way that he's doing them now. And I think that's honestly the better story to tell. But anyways, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're trying to hit 100,000 subscribers in 2023, so help us out by hitting that subscribe button, tapping the notification bell so that way you get notifications on every video that I put out. Do the YouTube thing, like, share, all that good stuff, and let me know what you thought about Punisher number 9. Keep it plus ultra, and sound off in the comments.